Now we're up to New Jersey, and this is a busy board, and I'm wearing Colorado because that's where the real ugliness gets uglier, and this is a franchise that had nothing but disaster in terms of their results until the late 80s. And yet, when Wayne Gretzky said it was a Mickey Mouse organization, everybody went nuts. And for anybody who'd been following the Devils and before that the Rockies and the Scouts, they'd agree. They'd be like, yeah, no, that's pretty badly run. That's an accurate description. This is a pretty bad. The only thing is Mickey Mouse organization. Mickey Mouse, Disney, they do pretty well, and then a Mickey Mouse team came in the '90s and ends up winning the Stanley Cup in the 2000s. Now, you can't talk about New Jersey and not talk about Colorado and Kansas City because the disaster just moved from city to city. It starts in Kansas City, 27 wins over 2 seasons. Then they moved to Denver. That's a disaster right out of the gate. They're there for 6 years and they win a grand total of 113 games. They don't even get close to 500. They don't get close. And in a division where all they have to do is knock Vancouver down and they can get in, and nope, nope. Playoffs, yeah, you guys know where that's going. Playoffs. So their longest drought was from 1979 through 1987, and it's amazing they made the playoffs in '78. Absolutely amazing that they made the playoffs at all. So that's 9 straight seasons, and that leads from Colorado through to New Jersey. But they didn't make the playoffs, obviously, in their first 2 seasons in Kansas City, where they combined for 27 wins. I think that's how many fans were in the stands for those seasons as well. Just an overall disaster. Now, the most losses on the board is Marty Brodeur because he played the most games. He played a ton of games. 394 career losses. And again, Marty Brodeur, that whole conversation is not necessary for this video because he's obviously the best goaltender that New Jersey ever had. And again, he leads in losses because of how long he played, how many games he had in there. Now, when we talk about lost assets, see, I have Scott Niedermayer up there for the Devils, but when a team's won 3 Stanley Cups, there's not a whole lot that you look at and say, man, like you could say a lost asset was when they didn't fail enough to get Mario Lemieux and they got Muller instead, but I don't know, that Muller turned out to be a pretty good player, right? But when you look at Colorado, that's where the real absolute disastrous results are. 1979, they draft first overall. You know that 1979 draft where everybody's a superstar? They picked Rob Ramage, number 1 overall. Rob Ramage had a very good career, long career, was a captain in his career, also was drafted ahead of Ray Borg. I'm just throwing that out there. The 1979 draft, a draft where you can't possibly get it wrong, Colorado did. And yeah, then in 1980, they traded the number 1 draft pick to Montreal. Montreal used it on Wickenheiser. So both teams lost that trade because Denny Savard was the number 2 pick. Yeah, Colorado could have drafted Denny Savard at number 2, but they traded down and drafted Paul Gagne instead. Then in 1981, the last year that Colorado drafts, they traded the number 3 draft pick, traded down to 5. They draft Joe Cirella. Again, good long career for him. The number 4 pick that year was Ron Francis. Back-to-back drafts, they could have had Savard and Francis. Right? So this was ineptitude. This was ineptitude when it came to drafting, trading, and everything. And of course, famously, Don Cherry coached the team for a year, rubbed management the wrong way because he was saying your goaltending's crap, and they went, "How dare you, sir? You can't say that." And he goes, "Yeah, I can. I'm Don Cherry, whatever." And so that's where that ended up. It was a disastrous season, and they were trying. Their motto that year was "Come to watch the fights, and a Rockies game will break out." So not even trying to hide the fact that hey, we're not very good, but we've got a coach that knows how to fight. And we've got players that know how to fight. So come on out. We'll have a bunch of fighting going on. And then maybe there's a hockey game in the midst of it. Short-term coaches. Sid Abel only coached three games in 1976 before he was like, enough of that. 3 losses in those 3 games. Burt Marshall, 1982, he coached them to a 3-17-4 record before he gets moved. There were a lot of coaches coming and going in Colorado. Now, Lou Lamoriello was known for having a short leash with his coaches, but nothing compared to Colorado. Was just an absolute total unmitigated disaster, which led to them moving to New Jersey. The funny thing is, in New Jersey, there have certainly been times where their future looked kind of up in the air. Like maybe they would move out of New Jersey as well. Maybe it's a cursed franchise. And then winning changed things. All of a sudden they started winning, and then all that talk kind of went away. I'm telling you, it does. Winning does a lot to make up for not having fans in attendance, struggling to sell merch, and just struggling to look like a legitimate franchise, which is where this team was. Now, not in the Hall of Fame, their number one scorer who's retired is Patrick Elias. Elias, of course, who is their leading scorer overall. And we'll see whether or not he qualifies as being Hall of Fame caliber. I always point to the guys who aren't in the Hall, and I say, all right, Theoren Fleury, Alex McGillney, Curtis Joseph. Do I put Elias over those guys? Probably not. And again, with McGillney's the one that I most shrug my shoulders at and say, seriously, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? Chris Terreri, the leader in wins, that's not in the Hall of Fame. Terreri's not a Hall of Famer, but he was a good goaltender, and he was that goaltender that they had when they were pretty good before Brodeur came along and things got much, much better. So Terreri, I liked Chris Terreri. I thought he was decent, and when he went from being the starter to being the backup, he didn't seem to have a problem with it, didn't seem to upset him too much. Now, I talked about the longest drought. Let's get into year one, and there's 3 different franchises to look at because year one is key. Kansas City, 15, 54, and 11, 41 points. And then they won 12 games in year 2. They're like, hey, whoa, 15 games. Whoa, we're not going to do that again. Colorado, their first year in Colorado, 20, 46, and 14, 54 points. That was a franchise record, 20 wins in 80 games. And then their first year in New Jersey, 82-83, they had 17 wins. 17, 49, and 14 for 48 points. So through almost a full decade in hockey, they were still terrible. They went from, we're really bad, we're an expansion team, we'll get better, to I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We keep trading our number 1 draft pick. I don't know why we keep doing that. We need to knock it off. And we traded down in like 1979. They could have drafted, think about this, 79, 80, and 81. They could have drafted Ray Bourque, Denny Savard, and Ron Francis. But instead, they got Rob Ramage, Paul Gagne, and Joe Cirella. It boggles the mind, right? But that explains the mediocrity that just kept getting worse. Now, in year 11, which was 84-85, and this is year 11 for the franchise, they're 22, 48, and 10. 52 points. They're still not as good as they were in 76, 77 in Colorado. And it's ridiculous. This team was so bad. So for New Jersey fans that look at this team right now and say, man, I'm tired of this team being bad, you're probably too young to remember this era. This was when it was really bad. They didn't hit a 500 season until 87, 88 when they ended their playoff drought. That was the first year that they won as many games as they lost, was 87, 88. They came into the league in 74, 75. That playoff drought was in middle school. Playoff drought was in middle school before they finally went, we should probably win more games than we lose this year. Their lowest points percentage against any one team, against Calgary, they have a .316 winning percentage. Not a surprise, considering they were in the same division with Calgary for a while there in the 80s, while they were Colorado, and they were miserable. Goals for per game against Columbus, they've only scored 2.13 goals per game, so again, that's the 90s expansion and beyond. Goals against per game against Calgary, they allow 3.87 goals per game. These numbers tell you this team doesn't like playing Calgary, and this team was bad for a very long time. Now, lowest points per games played, minimum of 100 games played, and this is in New Jersey. So keep in mind this is in New Jersey. I didn't include Colorado and Kansas City because there's enough depression there. I included them in the goaltenders, but I'm not including them in the points. Cam Jansen, .029. David Hale, .062. Jason Smith, .067 points per game. Tim Sestito, .080. And Mark Fraser, .091 for the New Jersey Devils. Again, with goaltending, I'm including Kansas City and Colorado because there's a couple interesting names in there. Ron Lowe for New Jersey, lowest save percentage for any goaltenders, played 50 games with them. .864. Alain Chevrier, .866. Craig Billington, also .866. Surprised by Billington being on there, to be honest. Billington was a half-decent goaltender. Denny Herron for Kansas City had an .892 save percentage. Herron played behind some pretty historically bad teams in his career. Hardy Astrom in Colorado, 870. So 870 save percentage, and Don Cherry's going, I need a new goalie, and they're going, maybe you don't. Just give him some confidence. All right, I'll nail his clogs to the floor. How does that sound for confidence? Which is apparently what happened. Now the goalie with the best name, I went with Hannu Kampuri. So two P's in that, and I went with Hannu Kampuri because Finnish names are fun always. You know, and while it would be interesting to try to find a way to shoehorn in what this franchise has gone through in the last 10 years and say this is somewhat comparable, I can't do it with a straight face. I cannot with a straight face say that with the mediocrity this team's gone through over the last 7 or 8 years, that it is anywhere near as bad as what this team went through when they were Kansas City, Colorado, and then New Jersey. Lou Lamoriello saved this team and stabilized everything. And they're a pretty stable franchise right now from the point of view of we know they're not going to move. We know that while their attendance may sag at different points in time, they're not one of those franchises that fans are saying, that's it, move it. But I heard it about New Jersey at one point. That's it doesn't work in New Jersey either. And even talk from some fans like, well, maybe just fold the franchise. It's cursed. But eventually it got over its curse and it won itself 3 Stanley Cups. So there you go. The low points of the New Jersey franchise, which includes this beautiful Colorado Rockies jersey, and of course the Kansas City Scouts before that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.